Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having an awesome day. As you've probably seen from the title, I have a guest with me today, and so we'll be talking mainly about mental health in both adults and teens, especially with PTSD and grief. We'll also be discussing how to find support, and we'll also talk about support groups. And so before we start, it's also worth mentioning that the next episode, so episode 18, would be the last episode of this season. I will take a very little break, a very short break from this, and I'll be back in a few weeks. Hi, so today I'm here with Doug, and we're going to talk quite a lot about his experience, and we're going to focus a lot about mental health and his experience with mental health. So, if it's okay, would you like to introduce yourself?
I sure can, and thank you for this great opportunity. My name is Doug Lawrence, and I am a international certified mentor, and I'm also a retired Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer, having served for approximately 25 years. And as a result of that time of service, I ended up with post-traumatic stress disorder, and it has since been, I'll call it, magnified with the passing of my wife in 2021.
Okay. I'm very sorry about the passing of your wife. And so if it's okay, from like the form you submitted, I read that you have a book and something you wrote about a book, and you wrote a book. I don't really remember the name, but I think you have two books. And if it's okay, would you like to talk about your books?
I sure can. So I published in 2014, I believe it is. The book was called The Gift of Mentoring, and it is basically the fundamentals of mentoring. And it was the reason it came to be was because of a number of my colleagues, my friends, and even a couple of my mentors said that, you need to write a book about all of this, because all this mentoring you're doing, you need to tell the story about mentoring. So I did, and like I said, I published that book in 2014, and then fast forward to 2000 and 2022, I guess. I published You Are Not Alone, or had it published, You Are Not Alone, in January of 2022, and it came to pass in much the same sort of fashion, in that it was a group of my friends, my colleagues said, with the work that you're doing, mentoring people that are dealing with, mental health challenges and stuff like that, you should write a book about it. And so I started to do some research, and I found out a number of things that were of great interest to me. And I thought they'd be also great to share with those readers, my followers that I had. So I wrote the book and had it published in January of 2022.
Yeah, that's really cool. And a lot of my other guests, they also have books, which I think is really cool. And so writing is a really good way to really like escape from reality kind of, and to it does help your mental health. And so you just told me you have PTSD, and I was wondering how you managed with it, how you manage it overall in your life.
And I can certainly touch on that. And I forgot to mention, but the title of the book, the second book, is You Are Not Alone. And so that was the title that we came up with for the book. How I've been dealing with post-traumatic stress is I do a lot of peer-to-peer counseling, where I go to group sessions or one-on-one sessions, and deal with it somehow, some way like that. A lot of it is having those resilience factors that you can turn and rely on. So for me, up until 2021, when my wife passed, both her and my children were the resilience factor that I relied quite heavily on. And I didn't realize the impact that my dealing with mental health and the changes in my behavior that came as a result of that, I didn't really realize, because I was so caught up in just me, that I didn't realize the impact that that was having on my family. In fact, as I found out when I was actually doing a workshop in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, was doing a workshop, and I'd taken my wife Deborah with me, and we had this. I was doing a bit of. I did a small segment on mental health and how it was important as a mentor to be cognizant or aware of that. And partway through the conversation, she made the statement, and I'd never heard it before, where she said that, and he came very close to losing the three of us. And that kind of caught me off guard. And then that was sort of the wake up call I needed, was that, here we are, we're a close knit family, or so I thought. And yet I was tearing the family apart because I would resort to alcohol to mask my mental health challenges. And that was just making things worse instead of better.
Yeah, because for me, I'm a teen, and obviously I'm not allowed to get my hands on the love, like for example alcohol. I'm 13, I can't buy it yet, but I did try some I'm on antidepressants, and they do help, but they get a little addicting and they're quite addictive, and I kind of it's like I'm another person when I take them. And for me, I also didn't notice that my mental health was impacting my family, especially my parents and my sister. And she doesn't know a lot about that too, because she's younger than me. So do you have any tips about how you should come forward to parents and talk to friends about this kind of topic? Because it's always hard to talk to friends and family about mental health.
That's true. And there's also the stigmatism that, if you've got mental health issues, that people say you must be crazy or something like that, right? And that's definitely not the case. What I talk about in the book is that, you and I liken it to, I use the analogy of I'm in my closet where I feel safe and secure, but I'm not safe and secure. And what I need to be able to do is to open the door and reach out and ask for help. And it's okay to ask for help. It's, it doesn't do us any good if we just stay in the closet. So reach out and ask for help. And for those of us on the outside, when we see that door open and somebody reaches out and says, I need help, we need to be there to take their hand and say, I will walk with you. I will go with you on your journey of healing, and I'll be with you as much as I possibly can in order to do that.
Yeah, because like you said, a lot of people deal with their mental health struggles differently. And I think I can say me and you, we're very different people, and we live in two really different parts of the world and complete opposite time zones, but we both deal with our mental health differently. And it's the same for a lot of people. We all deal with our mental health differently, no matter the age, the gender, and the race or anything. And so that is really important for us to get help. And like you said, for me, my whole podcast, a lot of it is based on there's no shame in getting help, because there's this huge stigma against kids, especially teens, and also adults and men seeking help and asking for help. And sometimes I'm a teen and adults think my life is really easy and I shouldn't even need help. And so I really agree with what you're saying, and getting help, there's really no shame in getting help, and like you said, coming out of that closet and finding someone and getting support.
Most definitely. And the only person that you're actually hurting by not coming out and asking for help is you're hurting yourself. And, it's a journey. The healing journey is so much easier when you go on it with somebody else. And, that's kind of earlier when we first started talking, I had made reference to peer-to-peer counseling and stuff like that. I'm part of a support group that there's only 4 of us in it, and we have bonded as people. Our reason for coming together has caused us to develop a lot stronger relationships. And we met for lunch, and we're spread out all over the province of Saskatchewan. We're spread out, and we all came together for a lunch here in the city that I live in. And that was just through the power of, wanting to help each other change your life, make a difference, all of those things. That's what can happen if people come out of the closet and ask for help.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter really what problems we're facing. And the key to getting support, I think, really is that you want to get support, and the person who's getting support really wants it. And sometimes it's hard for people, like especially people with like depression, to get help because they feel like they're not worthy of that help and they don't deserve that help. And they're definitely not. They definitely deserve that help, and they really should go and get help. And like that's one of the main points I always talk about in my podcast, is really getting help.
Yeah, and it's so important. And I see that in a lot of the people that I work with mentoring being part of their support structure for their mental health challenges, but is that, getting them to appreciate that it's okay to ask for help. We typically have that stigmatism that if you have to ask for help, that's a sign of weakness and all that sort of stuff. It's not. That's actually a sign of strength, because it's self-care, right? It's all about self-care. And if I don't take care of myself, nobody else will. And so then it's okay to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah, because getting help is being strong, and getting help is not being weak. It's completely the opposite. And so that's what I want to talk about. Is like, how do you go and get help, and how how does your support group help you manage your symptoms? Because I also have really intrusive thoughts, and I love really I act really impulsively. And so a lot of my friends and my family and my parents have helped me with that. And how did your support group help you with your symptoms?
I look at it from sort of 2 aspects. I look at it from a few years ago when my wife was still alive, and she was the sort of person that kind of kept me in check, I guess is the best way to describe it. And she was also there to say, if things are getting tough, you need to let me know so that I can help you. So just having that kind of that shoulder to cry on, or that person to lean on, was really, really important. Then I look and I fast forward. So my wife has passed away, and so I'm going through a grieving process, which also has an impact on my mental health as well. And that's something that your listeners need to be mindful of, is that grief can also have a huge impact on your mental health. So from a getting support perspective, the group of primarily it's the group of 4 people, or 3 plus myself is 4, that we're all experiencing much the same sort of thing. And as a result of that, what helps is being able to relate to the fact that somebody else is also experiencing similar behaviors, similar feelings, all of those things. When it's such that somebody else is experiencing them, experiencing those same thoughts and feelings, it does make it somewhat easier to go and to actually ask for further help and to be able to move forward with, whatever steps you need to take in order to continue the healing process.
Yeah, I feel like having someone to really relate to, and because I have a friend who's anorexic, and I don't have an eating disorder, but we have gone through like similar experiences, and so like it really helps me deal with my problems a lot more because for me, one thing I have a lot of panic attacks, and sometimes they get really bad, and especially when they're in school, and I always have that friend to like whenever I'm having like really bad anxiety, I just asked her to come and help me, and we go and we talk it out, and she helps me with things. So it's really helpful to really have that person to manage like stress and anxiety with.
And you've touched on a really important factor, and that's to be able to talk it out. And that is probably one of the most beneficial healing steps that we can take, is instead of keeping it all boiled up inside of us, is to feel comfortable, to feel safe enough that we can talk our way through it and be able to. And I get that in a lot of situations where I'm working with people, or even with with my support group, that just being able to talk to somebody who is experiencing something similar, or probably similar is the best way to describe it. Just being able to talk to somebody who also knows when it's time to be quiet, just to let me talk, right? Versus, interrupting or trying to talk over or anything like that. I find one of my greatest attributes is I'm a great listener, and sometimes I will help you get the conversation started, and then I become quiet, but I'm there to support you as you continue to talk your way through it.
Yeah. And for me, I feel like even though like mental health, it's really hard, and obviously the illnesses isn't a great part, but like a great part of my life, but I did learn a lot, and I'm still learning, and I realize I'm becoming a better listener, and I can help other people with my problems. And I'm wondering if you've had like similar experience where you can help someone else going through the same and similar experiences.
Yeah, and that's part of what I do is with the mentoring. So the research that I did for You Are Not Alone for my second book, what came from that research was the fact that mentoring can be part of the support structure for mental health. So it does provide the vehicle that we can use to help people deal with what it is that they're struggling with from a mental health, mental well-being perspective. So it does allow for that to take place.
Yeah. So I really like what you're saying, and like focusing on support, and that's like a huge thing in this society, like in this world right now. And so I like to talk a lot about what support is like for teens, because um I like to focus on teens because like I'm a teen, and I also like to get my friends and the whole community involved with getting like teens um talking about their mental health and getting help. So do you have any thoughts on that, and like how do you think teens should ask for help, and who should they like ask for help?
Yeah, I from my perspective is that, you know, in some regards, when it comes to mental health, being a teen or an adult, it doesn't really matter. When it comes for the point of asking or needing to get help, is that we all need to be comfortable, and it's easier said than done, but we all need to be comfortable in opening that closet door and reaching out and saying, I need help. So we need to be comfortable there. And what I have found is a lot of times, as a result of reaching out and asking for help, I found a community of others who were also experiencing much the same behaviors, feelings, all of those things. And it helped me with some of my healing in that I was able to recognize that there was somebody else that was experiencing much the same thing.
Yeah. And so I like what you mentioned before, like having someone to relate to. And that's really interesting because I would also like to talk about what it feels like to be like undiagnosed and like feeling that something is wrong, but then not really knowing like which illness you have. So did you go through like that phase or that period of time where you're just like stuck in the middle and not knowing what to do, and you know that something's wrong and you're feeling like really weird feelings and emotions and maybe feeling down but not really knowing what's wrong?
For me, it was different. I was a police officer and I was working and had the symptoms of post-traumatic stress, but didn't know it. And I wasn't a nice person to be around at all. I was a real first-class jerk, to be truthfully honest, and that had an impact on my family and family life and that. And I really didn't understand. Well, we didn't have support groups per se back then. You were it was the old story of, suck it up, buttercup, and just deal with it. And I really truly didn't appreciate, to the extent that I needed to appreciate, I didn't appreciate the fact that I actually did have post-traumatic stress until I had started the research for my second book, You Are Not Alone. And then I went, oh my goodness, that's me. That's how I was behaving. That's how I was, oh my goodness, I have done this, horrible thing to my family where when they were trying to help me, I was pushing back, and instead of accepting their offer to help and make things better.
Yeah, because I've been also diagnosed with bipolar a while ago, and I like to accept it, but I'm still really not there yet because I kind of like I did know something was wrong, and I have like a few other like illnesses like anxiety and depression. I've been diagnosed before, but like I never knew I had bipolar, and it was like a really different thing. And honestly, when I was diagnosed with it, I had no idea what it was. So I had to do like a lot of research, and until now I still can't really like fully accept it. So what was it like accepting the fact that you had PTSD? Um, how did you really accept the fact that you would have to deal with this um illness for a big part of your life?
Well, it was enlightening, to say the least, in that, I had these behaviors that I didn't feel that was me. And then once I was able to determine why I had those behaviors, then it was easier for me to deal with it. I don't know if you ever accept the fact, because I think human nature being what it is, we're going to push back and say, well, that's not me. That would never be me. And then it is you. And so then it's a matter of what resilience factors can I put into place that's going to help me move forward with healing and being able to, rectify the hurt that I obviously caused, other people. And I've worked with people who have bipolar, and it's just, what I found was the more that I understood bipolar, the better I was able to respond to the needs of the person that had bipolar that I was working with.
Yeah. And even if a person has been diagnosed with the same illness, we never really experience it in the same way because when I researched about bipolar, like I saw like the ups and the downs and like being manic and being depressed. And I've been in that depressive phase for a while and I was like, oh yeah, that's me. But then I've never been like manic and I've never like overspent my money and never really went what people would call like crazy. And so like I don't like being like labeled crazy or like moody or like impulsive or anything, but I did kind of like um not really accept but kind of got to know that oh, I have like some of the symptoms of bipolar. I might actually have it and I'll like try deal with it because having a diagnosis, although it's a little like confusing and it's a little messy, it does help because I can like search it up. I can ask and go like, this is a problem I'm dealing with. What can I do to help myself?
And excuse me, and I think one of the things that I have found is that number one, understanding the illness and the symptoms is really important because sometimes I've seen where people have been diagnosed with bipolar and then 2 weeks later they're diagnosed with something else and oh, you don't have bipolar. And so it gets confusing for, not only the person who is being diagnosed, but their support structure as well is confused. Okay, so what do I have to do differently here to help you on your healing journey? Oh, now that's changed and I have to go in this direction.
Yeah, I totally agree because I like I've known people who were a lot of people actually with bipolar has been like misdiagnosed with like borderline personality disorder and that's like a huge one that gets muddled up in between. So I know like a lot of people on like in-person like support groups and online support groups where people have like just came and a week later went like, oh, I'm just gonna leave now because I don't have this disorder anymore. And they're like, oh, boom, bye, I'm not here anymore. And so it's really confusing because I can imagine how their like support group would feel like and how their parents and family would feel like when they're just shifting from like kind of shifting from one disorder to another, not really like changing because of course they haven't changed yet because it's the same person, but like the disorder has changed and feels like they're dealing with a complete different problem right now.
Yeah, and the more the best way for the healing to take place is to create that environment for those safe conversations to take place, and then is to have something in place that's going to, so if somebody's going to a counselor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or all of those things, what are we doing for them for the time periods in between visits with those professionals? And that's why I'm a strong proponent of mentoring as part of the support structure, so that I know that I can go to my mentor and say, gee, I'm feeling really down today. I'm depressed, or I've got a high level of anxiety because of all these things going on. What am I supposed to do? And the mentor can be there to just listen and hear and be non-judgmental and give that person the opportunity to be able to talk their way through,
Yeah.
you right, their thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, and like a really big part I think for mentors are like and like therapists and like psychiatrists are what like you said, even though the session might be really nice and like a really nice chance for the patient or for the client to really like remove their stress, but if they see the therapist like once in a week or 2 weeks, there's that time in between sessions where they might not know what to do. And I don't want to rely on my therapist. Like my life is not revolved around those therapy sessions. So a really nice thing that I love when like when people that help me actually tell me like how I can like take care of myself in between the sessions until the next time I get to talk to them about my problems and ask for advice.
Yeah, and what you've sort of sketched out is a great opportunity for that, we'll call it that mentor, to be there for you, right? To help fill in the time periods when you're not talking to your therapist or your counselor or your psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever professional help you're getting. What I've found is that it does make a difference when the people that I'm working with, when they get the opportunity to have somebody to go to talk to, and I'm experiencing that myself with, now with my mental health being impacted by dealing with grief, that I have this absolutely awesome support group that I can go to. And a lot of times it's just, I hear what you're feeling, or I sense what you're feeling. And it's just to know that somebody else has experienced or is experiencing much the same thing. And I'm not crazy, or I'm not, right. So it's so important to have that, your entire support structure in place to help you with your healing journey. It's really important. It's, if our listeners take nothing away from this other than to realize that it's okay to come out of the closet and ask for help, if that's the only thing they take away, then that's a win-win.
Yeah, that's for me like the most important thing. Like for me, this podcast is about defeating the stigma of like hiding your feelings, and to really not cry in your bedroom alone, but really talking to people. And it's okay to cry in front of people, and it's okay because it's normal and everyone has cried before. So I really love like what we're doing today. And um I came into this like Zoom call thinking that we'll be like talking like about specific mental health disorders, but instead we focus a lot on like support and help, and I'm really glad we did. So unfortunately we're like running out of time, but I really appreciate you being here, and I really appreciate you working with the time zones and coming in on time and talking to me about everything going on in the world right now and everything about mental health. And it's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity.
So, as usual, before we end this, I would like to remind you to please reach out for help if you need it. Please talk to a trusted adult if you're feeling down or unwell. You can also call crisis hotlines, and if you're in an emergency, please call your local emergency services. Of course, you can talk to me for a chat or for some teenage advice, but I'm not trained and not professional, so I would suggest talking to an adult or a professional in that area first. Please do not hesitate to seek help. Before we finish this episode, I would just like to say thank you for listening, and if you're listening on Spotify, you can add your suggestions, feedback in my Instagram bio. And I've started to share some mental health tips and share some updates on my website and also on my newsletter, in which you can subscribe to. So I have also started preparing for an episode where we'll read out your confessions and any questions you have on mental health. So if you would like to submit one, please go to my website, which you can see on my podcast bio and on my platforms I am live on. And lastly, if you're interested about my guest episodes, please go to my website to find more about that. So I hope that helps. Thank you for listening. I hope you listen to my other episodes, and I hope you have an awesome day. Bye.